Welcome to One for the Money, the weekly talk show with interviews you can use. I'm national financial columnist and talk show host, Steve Savant. Happy New Year to you and your family. And with the new year comes New Year's resolutions. And at the top of the list is getting out of debt. We all want to save more money, but it's difficult when we're drowning in red ink. Today, we're going to team up with you and help you lower your debt and turn some of that red ink into some green. And to help us recover from our spending addictions, especially after the recent holiday buying spree, frequent talk show host and guest, newspaper columnist Cindy Sullivan, fee-only registered investment advisor, all here on One for the Money. Well, welcome to One for the Money, Cindy.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year to you. Did you have a good holiday?
Did I have a good holiday? It's going to be part of my confession in the first segment. I had such a good holiday. I have the unwanted 10, maybe probably more like 12 pounds extra.
I'm right there with you.
And I'm just telling you, and everybody is already having their little bit of culinary remorse, I'm sure.
Yes.
And by the way, Happy New Year to you. And I have to tell you, I'm really surprised. I went out on the internet to see what are the top 3 resolutions for the new year. Number 1 was losing weight. Why was that number 1?
Right.
So I knew that was going to happen. But the next 2 are the ones that really fascinated me. The second resolution that people make on a new year is I want to get out of debt, or I want to reduce my debt, or I want to manage my debt.
We spend too much and we're feeling a little fat around the edges and we want to cut back.
Think about it. The same psychological profile that helps us get a little bit overweight is probably the same thing that helps us when we get into debt big time.
Exactly. We want everybody to be happy, have a great holiday, and we start spending money, as you know. So.
Well, we're sitting here, and every time you look in January and you're looking at your Discover card, Visa card, Citibank.
Very depressing.
Oh my gosh, we have spent a lot. And so holiday, it's hard because you're trying to give the gift of affection, love. You were thinking about a person, and all of a sudden we were already in debt to begin with. Then we got the holiday, and then of course they sold us on look at the deals that are out there. I mean, from Black Friday, all the way to the end of the year. Unbelievable discounts. Everybody's trying to play. But the third highest resolution is saving money. And my problem is, how can I save money if I am in debt?
Exactly.
And that's our big problem.
Most
Now,
definitely.
I'm trying to always set an example. I have children, you have children.
Yes.
We're trying to set an example. This is a budget. This is how to use a card, a credit card. This is how to use a checkbook. We're always trying to do this. So I'm looking, I wonder who America's role model is.
Right.
And I keep thinking, well, what should be a role model? Well, I'll tell you what should be, but it isn't.
Right.
And I just happened to be on usdebtclock.org. usdebtclock.org is a huge, and I mean a huge website. It gets hit like you cannot believe. We're going to add to that because of the show.
Right.
And I'm looking at the United States all in debt at $16+ trillion.
Wow. Unbelievable, like a ticking time bomb. I mean, we're creating a new bubble and it's scary. I don't think people really realize it out there. So.
Well, when you think about the $16 trillion, you are also, as a registered investment advisor, you were telling me, hey, we just got through the housing issue.
Exactly.
I mean, finally got over that.
Right.
Seems like we're bottoming out.
We're kind of creating a new bubble with the government debt, and think about what happened after the real estate bubble got popped. Okay, then we had the stock market bubble that got popped. Now, I think we're creating a new bubble with the U.S. government debt. So.
Well, I'm looking at these numbers, and here are some of the what I would call fascinating boilerplate issues.
Very interesting.
Look at this number right now. If you took the $16 trillion debt and you divided it up among all the citizens in the United States, and we're looking at over 314 million Americans right now, that would cost each citizen $52,000 each to retire the $16 trillion debt.
Right, and think about it though, how many are paying taxes of those 314 million?
Well, about 53% of federal tax. And when I look at federal tax, that means my bill, I mean, I'm looking at the debt per taxpayer, that's almost 3 times the amount, which is
it's $142,570, believe it or not, yes.
See, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at $142,000 for people who pay tax. And when I look at these numbers, these are huge, huge numbers. Now look, the federal budget right now is at $3.5 trillion. That's what we're budgeting to spend.
Right.
The actual revenue, somewhere around 2.4 to 2.45 revenue coming in.
What's wrong with that picture?
Well, what's wrong with it is about $1.1 trillion in deficit spending. I mean,
no wonder we have
yeah.
a problem.
And I keep looking at this, and if you go out to usdebtclock.org, you'll see what we're talking
That's
about
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
And I think if you're an American and you're concerned about this country, and you're talking about country and our debt, this
Right.
is something you need to look at.
Shocking.
And one of the last things I wanted to bring up on this is when I'm looking at, this is the total interest paid for 2012, and that was almost, not quite, almost
Right. So that's
$4 trillion.
the total interest paid. You're not paying down your principal. That's a big concern. That's like having a mortgage and never paying down any of the principal. That's not a
I
good
haven't seen
thing,
any banks,
as we know.
I haven't seen any banks
Right.
letting you just pay interest only lately.
Right.
Wait,
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Lately,
I
they
haven't
used
seen-
to.
They used to do that. Now look, if we only
Yes.
wanted to pay just the interest, just to keep us afloat, which is basically what we're doing,
Right.
it would cost each citizen, again, not taxpayer, but it would cost each citizen $12,500 just to pay
year.
the interest
Right.
a year. That's
Yes.
$1,000 plus a month.
Right.
Now I don't know about you, but my
Unbelievable.
budget,
Right.
my personal budget,
Right.
your personal budget,
Yes.
most taxpayers, I can't afford that.
Can you add another $1,000?
No, I don't want to. Well,
Most people
I probably
cannot.
could, but I don't want
Right.
to. You know? How about that? Now,
Right.
I'm looking, look at this thing. This is the total debt. This is all debt, all U.S. debt and its subsidiaries, citizens
Unbelievable.
at $58 trillion. Now,
Wow.
remember, a little difference here because there's a little, not all that's government itself,
Right.
but we're talking about as citizenry, as
Yes.
all in. That is a number that to me is colossal.
Oh, it's huge. I'm shocked. I have no idea.
And when you
Yes.
look at this, if you were to divide that up, that's 184,000 per
Wow.
citizen, and almost, not quite though, 700,000
For family.
for family.
Yeah, right. And add that on top of the debt you already have. It's overwhelming. It's shocking.
It's
So,
shocking.
yes.
When we come back on our next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about what we think the future is going to be and how you can start to really prepare for 2016. When we come back, we'll talk about all this right here on One for the Money.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
You know, living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to Two for the Show, our second segment. And of course, I'm with registered investment advisor Cindy Sullivan. Hey, Cindy.
Be here.
I'm in shock and awe about our first segment,
know.
and it's not going to get any better for a little bit. I want to go out into the future to the next election.
It gets even worse.
2016. Well, if we don't
Yes.
do anything, definitely
right.
it's going to get worse.
That's why this is
Look at
important.
these numbers, and again, you can always look at our top of our board here because it is just staggering to me
Right.
to think that we're going to go from 16 trillion at present spending and at present revenue. We're looking at going to 22 trillion.
Wow.
I know, I
Yes,
can't even conceive.
unbelievable.
How can
Yeah.
we keep increasing at 25, 30%? I mean,
Right.
every
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
it's compounding.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking at. So now we're looking at 22 trillion. And again, if every single citizen were to take their part, it's going to be costing them almost 70 grand to retire it. And again,
Wow.
that's not taxpayers.
yeah.
That's just
Right.
citizens. There's 314 million citizens in the United States, but only 53% pay
Right.
federal
and that's
income
like
tax.
almost 184,000 per taxpayer. So.
That's right. I mean, get me on the payment plan because I don't
Unbelievable.
know how I'm
Right,
gonna, I don't know how I'm going to retire this.
Exactly.
And then when I look down here, I'm looking at, interesting enough, the proposed budget, the way it's set today, actually shows a surplus because we're never paying down the debt. We're only servicing the
right.
interest. I thought, my goodness, if there's an accounting spin, I
Yes.
haven't seen one in a long time. That is
Yeah.
perfect. They're looking at, again, having an actual surplus, but again, not paying principal. So
Right.
that's a real issue.
Yeah.
I want to come down and look at some of this. Look at the personal itemized debt issue here
Yeah,
because I
found
find this to
most
be
interesting. Yeah, this is
there's
unbelievable.
Total personal debt's about $15 trillion.
Wow.
Now we're not talking about government debt. We're talking about
Right.
our debt.
Our debt, right? Yeah, including mortgage
That's
and
right.
consumer debt. $11.6 billion in mortgage debt.
No, trillion
Oh
with
my-
a T.
Oh.
No, trillion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I liked it better the way I
Yeah,
said
and look
it,
at when you look at consumer debt at 3.3 trillion and the credit card issues, the way we're sitting around right now in 2012 at
Right.
2 trillion. We're trying to look how to manage that. We're going to be talking about this in our segment 3 and 4 because it really matters to me. Because how can we set aside money? Remember, what's the number one resolution? Well, losing weight.
Right.
But number 2 is getting out of debt,
Getting out of debt
reducing
and-
debt, or managing it. And number 3 is I need to save money sooner or later. I can't just
Right.
keep doing this
Yes.
and spending for today and not worrying about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, interesting enough to know, I'm looking at the consumer debt, and out of that consumer debt of 3.3 trillion, 1 trillion is on credit cards.
Wow.
Now, here's the difference. You're a registered investment advisor. You know what we're paying.
Right.
A lot of people are not paying off their
Right.
cards every
They're
month.
not at all.
So
no,
what
they just
is-
keep growing,
and the interest rate.
accumulating. The interest rates, a lot of people are paying 18, 19% and don't even realize it. They're barely making their minimum payments. And if you just come off the holidays and you're in that position where you're just making your minimum payments, maybe you maxed out your credit cards, you know what I'm talking about. We need to start getting our own house in order. This is shocking information about our country, but let's start with us. And so that's what we're talking about today, and we're going to talk more about that in the following
Well,
segments.
I wish I could be more a good news person today, but I
Oh,
can't.
okay.
Happy New Year to us, right? I'm looking at the four budgetary, the Congressional Budget Office, the Office of Management, the GOP Committee on the Budget, and the U.S. Debt Clock's predictions. On the congressional budget, we're looking at about 18.5 trillion. That's what they say. Kind of conservative against the first number I told you. But the second one is at 20 trillion, and that's by the Office of Management and Budget, which is probably closer to the truth. But when I look at the U.S. debt clock, which has always been a little more accurate over the last 5 to 10 years, it's again shooting us at 22 trillion. Now, the reason I bring this up as a redux is I'm looking at the total financial condition. And I want you to go out to truthinaccounting.org. When you see it up on the screen, you're just going to see, look at that number, $71 trillion. That includes government debt and all our obligations,
Right.
Social Security,
Social Security,
Medicare, Medicaid, and our government pension plans, all that all in. And when you look at your share up in the upper corner over there, it says it's 229,000.
Oh my goodness,
And
even
again,
worse, even more.
And again, that's not the taxpayer, that's all citizens. So I have no idea what that is for a taxpayer.
It's going to be probably twice
And
that.
when I was reviewing this part of the segment for us, Cindy, I noticed that certain states, and I remember, as you
Very
can see up here, I took the top 5 states and I called them the sunshine states, although almost all these states are in the north. I
not
don't know why I'm calling them
yes,
sunshine.
yeah, they're-
But on the other side, I'm looking at the bottom 5 states in the union. Now, look at these numbers. These are states that are really doing well. Alaska, each taxpayer's money, actually surplus, is $21,000.
Wow.
I heard
That's
Alaska, you get about a
awesome.
$600-700 oil dividend
Oh, that's
income
awesome.
back from the government.
And ladies, there are a lot more men in Alaska, as we know. So think about that. If you can freeze yourself to death, then you'll be okay.
Wow, if you can take care of the cold, I mean, the odds are
Yes.
great. You're going to find some guy.
Exactly.
So you look at Alaska, Wyoming, North Dakota, Utah, Nebraska, all are positive. And by the way,
Right.
the state we're broadcasting from, of course, our home state for Cindy and I, we're talking about Arizona, and we're ranked 15th. It's not bad.
We're doing pretty
it's not
good.
bad.
Yeah,
it's
no,
okay.
I
We're
feel
not in a surplus,
better
but
about that
better
than
than
others.
nothing.
Yes.
But then look at the bottom 5, and I'm
wow.
talking about, man, I thought I'd see California here. Look
Right,
at
I did
Kentucky,
too.
Illinois, Hawaii, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
I don't get it. Do you have any idea why?
Well, remember, these places are high support for everyone. They have a lot of
Right.
social programs in,
Right.
and the revenue has really not been able to take care of it. And in most states, California being the 5th largest economy in the world, I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
They're having problems doing that. And listen, we're trying to manage debt, and our government's not doing it. It's going to impact the way we play.
Right.
When we come back on the next segment, we're going to talk about how we can play, because now we're going to get into our personal debt, and we'll have it with Cindy
The
Sullivan.
good stuff. Yeah.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
Living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to One for Your Money. I'm Steve Savan, and of course with us is registered investment advisor Cindy Sullivan. Cindy, we were talking about kind of like futuristic in the last segment, and now we're going to kind of move into some of the things that really impact people. And one thing I'm looking for is inflation. Now, I don't think people incorporate this because if you're going to be retiring for 20 or 30 years, even today, inflation's changed for a long time. Look at this. When you look at this chart here on this board,
surprising.
And I lived through the 70s. I mean, we're talking serious inflation. So that's been huge. But now it seems to have, even though the government has changed the rules of definition on what is inflation, which, by the way, is a problem because sometimes you're sitting there going, shouldn't my Social Security be going up higher because all my grocery bills are going up, right?
Yeah, people who are actually out there shopping realize prices have gone up, and average has been 4.43% over the last 44 years. What's going to be going on in the future? Think about those of us who are paying off our debt, and we're also focusing on saving money. That's our number 3 goal. Think about how much money it's going to take you to live your normal life once you do retire. So these are things to be thinking about. Have you ever thought about like how much you used to pay for a loaf of bread way back when?
I mean, I just told my kids I just paid 29 cents a gallon on prom night to fill up my
I was wondering about that.
GTO.
Okay, I think you're dating yourself right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at these numbers.
And what about in the 70s? Do you remember that? I remember
Well, it
standing
went
in
up.
line.
Yes, it was very high. And,
Yes.
and let me tell you, it was if you were out of debt, it was the greatest experience because you were making 13-14% on a money market account.
Right. If you were in debt, you
If
were
you're
paying
in debt, you were paying
those
mortgages
rates.
and double-digit numbers. It was hard to get a home.
Right, and
It just
hopefully we
was.
won't see that, but
Oh, I
it's something
hope
to be
not.
aware of.
But think about it.
When you do
the
planning.
government uses these two things. They go use inflation, and they use this thing called the Consumer Price Index. And again, you can see this mountain that's climbing up here because the index is really supposed to be a more mark to what we really actually spend that most Americans spend on. Again, I think it's still a little short personally, but it kind of gives you an idea. Here are the price tags, and look what happens with inflation. It really takes a chunk out of the power of the dollar. So when you look at this, this is really a huge, when I look at a boilerplate chart like this and look at the consumer index and how it's pummeled the dollar, I mean, what am I buying with $1 anymore? I mean, why do we use pennies? Why don't they just retire pennies? Is it even worth having a penny?
Yeah, we're down to like 20 cents on the dollar from 1967. It's shocking. So imagine that going forward. All of us who are looking at retiring, want to save some money, it's going to be a little harder. So you just need to keep that in mind when you're planning and you're doing your investing.
When you talk to people about retirement, are you putting in your retirement modeling the power of inflation and having the consumer price index chew away at that dollar? Do you do that as an
Almost definitely, yeah. We usually use around the 4%, but as of late, we felt like it was less. But again, if you're going in shopping and you're paying for groceries out there, you know what I'm talking about. Whether they say there's inflation out there or not, you know that it's going up. So yeah, to definitely be concerned with that.
Well, if you're like a lot of Americans, you're up to your neck in debt. And I want to just be able to give you a few things, and that's why I have Cindy on the show. Cindy, walk us through some of these initial steps to try to mitigate this issue.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that you may, after the holidays, feel like you spent too much. And so if you have a credit card that you've kind of maxed out, and yet you have a game plan in mind on how you're going to pay that off, that's one thing, and we can talk about that. But if you have maxed out all your credit cards, if you're just paying the minimums on those cards, that's a whole other issue. And here's some things I'd like for you to think about doing. Let's get your own house in order. Here we are talking about the government and how they need to do things differently, but how can you change that? How can you affect that? You can start by looking at yourself first. Start with your own house, and that's what I think is most important. So, do a budget. Now, what does everybody say when I say budget? Everybody goes, it's a 4-letter word, isn't it?
For the hills.
Get me out of here. But it's like the monster under the bed. Once you look under the bed, you'll see, that monster isn't as big as I thought it was. You'll know what you're dealing with. Either you need to cut back, and that's a helpful thing, or you need to, you're doing fine, and you don't have to feel as bad
You're gonna have
about
to
it.
increase your revenue. I mean,
Yes.
think about it. A basic budget, either I'm going to have to increase the revenue, drop
Right.
my expenses, or do both. Actually, I'd love
Exactly.
to do both.
Right.
Oh, I just got a raise. Oh, then I can spend more. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I want to try to reduce my spending and then try to increase my revenue.
Right.
Remember, we're going to be living a lot longer in retirement than we're
Yep.
talking about now. People that are really maxed out, like you said, though,
Right.
they need to start talking to their creditors because a lot of this is
They
negotiable.
do. Yeah, no, if you have like that $3,000, you max out your credit card, call the credit card company and see if maybe they can lower the rate for you. If you have a bigger issue, maybe you need to do go to a debt counselor. And one thing on that I want to say is try to find one that it's not going to cost you a lot of money. If anybody's telling you they're going to negotiate your debt, take it from 100% down to 40 or 50, I'd be a little leery of that. Some of the nonprofits are a much better place to go. It shouldn't cost you a lot of money to have them negotiate your debt with your creditors. It's amazing what I've seen in people's lives when they just start working and focusing, and I've known creditors to drop interest rates from 18-19% down to 0 or 3%. That's a lot more manageable. Then when you make that payment, you're actually paying it down, unlike what we know our government is doing these days.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to some of your plan of action because budget is the front end. Talking to creditors is a good idea.
Yes.
But we're going to put you on some ideas and plans that we're going to give away on our site when we come right back from the break.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
Living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to our last segment. I call it 4 to Go, fourth segment. And of course, I'm Steve Savant, and this is Cindy Sullivan. We're talking about registered investment advisor, and we're talking about debt reduction. We're trying to manage it, and we want to help. And if you go out to our site, you'll see all that at the closing credits. We'll show you all how to get in contact with us and everything else. But what I want to talk about first is credit cards. I have been I can almost say this now, a true disciple of using them. I have no problem using credit cards,
Yeah.
but I want to pay them off.
Right.
And every
Every
rotating month. Every
Right.
month, I want to get my 1 to 5%. I love
Right,
getting
right.
cash
Cash
back
back,
or
or
discounts with other
miles,
people.
or,
Miles.
traveling, things like that.
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
And I really like at the end of the year, which I just did 30 days ago, I looked at my total spending. You can get it in a
Right.
pie chart, a bar chart,
Yeah.
a graph, whatever
you
you
have
want.
an exact accounting that
Hey,
you can use
gasoline,
for your taxes. It's
groceries.
perfect. You can
Exactly.
import that to Quicken.
And I look at it and I see, there's my spending. I've seen what I've spent. Now remember, not all cards are created equal.
Right.
Some are better
Oh, yeah.
deals. I don't want to be paying 18, 19%. Well, first of all, I don't want to be paying it at all.
Right.
But as you move down the road to try to reduce your debt, we're going to try to reduce our higher paying interest first.
Right, right.
And work down to a manageable number. We're trying to free up cash flow
Right, yeah.
so that we can go ahead and start putting money aside.
And that's why the looking at your budget is so important to get clear on that and get lean and mean. That's what we need to do with the government. Are you spending anything extra? Can you divert that money over towards paying down your debt and getting serious about it? The minute you pay off one card, take that payment you were making there and put it on another one. That's a way of slowly cutting this down, getting lean and mean, like we know our government needs to be, so that gets you closer to your goal. Negotiate with your creditors. Talk to them. You may be able to get a much better deal. They might not want to lose you as a client, and can reduce that rate from 9-10% down to 3 or 4. So.
I want
there
to
are a lot of
look,
things to look
at consumer-friendly cards too. Do they give you a
Right.
decent grace period? Do they have any other benefits besides the point?
Right.
What kind of fees do they charge? And bigger than that, I want to know what's their unpaid balance computation. How do they actually figure it? And believe you me, you do not want to get a calculator to find this because this is deep formula.
Exactly.
But what we can do is help you because when you go out to our sites and ask for this kind of information, we're going to send this all to you so that you can reduce your debt. Because our real game plan is not to manage debt so much. We have to do that first. But our second resolution, or actually our third New Year's resolution, is to put more money away. And to do that, I have to reduce our debt basis.
Right.
Now, we're talking about the kind of managing your debt. I don't know about you, but when was the last time you saw your credit records?
You know, did you know this? But every year we're all able to get our free credit report on annualcreditreport.com. So you're due that every year.
You
So
don't have
go
to pay for
and
it.
it's free.
It's free.
Go check it out. Yes. Pull it up and see if there's mistakes. Maybe there's things that are not yours that are on your credit report. You might not have any idea. I even pay $12 to $15 a month so that I get like an email about anything out there that's not mine. You know, I get alerts on things. And so that $12, $15 is well worth it if you find out somebody's been, you know, stealing your identity or something like that. So yeah, go look in your credit report. You can actually say, I don't agree with this. This is not mine. And within 30 days, they have to come back and fix that for you. So get serious, sit down, get lean and mean, start paying off that credit, make sure everything's right on your credit report, and then we have what is our ultimate goal, free up some money so that we can start investing for the future because, again, things aren't going to be getting any cheaper, and unfortunately, you're probably going to be paying a lot more in taxes too. So that's our ultimate goal. I like to use dollar cost averaging, okay? You're putting in a little bit every month. That's what you do in your 401k. Have you ever looked at your 401k statement and gone, wow, I'm doing pretty good with this 401k, as opposed to your brokerage account where you may have your investments, it's a lump sum, you're not adding to it on a monthly basis. So you get started now, diverting that money you used to pay off your debt with into things that are gonna be there for you in the future so that you can retire at a decent amount. So that's our, you know, that's
It's
our
a basic
third
plan.
goal. It is.
When you think about it,
you
dollar
have
cost
to have
averaging.
a plan. Yes.
And that's part of our big plan is because dollar cost averaging, I'm taking what's left over the month, I'm trying to commit to a regular savings plan, and people say, well, what do I put it in? Well, that's another show.
Yes,
what I'm
it
talking about
is.
is right now
Right.
is we want to be able to get to the place, we're going to, when you go out to our site, and you'll see it at the end of the credits, we're going to talk about, here's some ideas to reduce your debt, how to play the games that we're talking about, but the bigger one is to free this money up. Now, when you do dollar cost averaging, sometimes the market will be up, sometimes the market will be down.
That's what's perfect about it. You're buying when the prices are high, you're buying when they're lower, and you're averaging your costs, dollar cost averaging. I can't tell you how awesome it is to be sitting talking to my 95-year-old client who just started saving a little bit early on. She's accumulated hundreds of thousands of dollars by just putting $30 a month. And believe you me, that's the value of compounding interest. And so start doing it now. We need to get lean and mean so we can start saving money for the future. And dollar cost averaging is an awesome way to do it. I'm already getting excited. I want to be talking about this, and I have a lot of ideas on what you could be investing in. So,
when you think about it, what we're trying to do is always manage our money well. And knowing how to play the short-term game plus real estate game for our mortgages, we need to know all these things and try to reduce our debt and put our budget in a position to actually free up cash for our retirement. It's all about your golden years. It's all about the way that you're going to be living, and it's about the quality of your lifestyle. Again, when we come back next week, we're going to be talking about things that can help you with your money on One for the Money.
So start the new year out right. Reduce your debt, free up your money, so you can start saving today the dollar cost averaging way. For more information on how you can reduce your debt and start saving money, just go out to our show's website at www.oneforthemoney.tv. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter and visit me on all my social media network sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google+. That's One for the Money.